Okay. Says we're live. Check. We're live.
All right, guys. So what's up? We have another debate for you today. Or perhaps you remember our guest here. He was rebel libertarian or something like that. I've debated him a few times before, and we have him on again. So we'll go through the topics. We'll see where we disagree and go from there. So I guess I can kind of lay out my issues, and you can kind of pick which one you'd like to talk about.
Okay.
So the first point, we've talked about this before, is kind of the utopian nature of it. I'm curious how you plan to actually achieve this. Don't really see it being very realistic. Next, how you plan to maintain it, your mechanism for preserving a culture. Very interested to hear that. Third, I have an issue with the non-aggression principle as a whole. Fourth, I have an issue with even if you were to achieve such a society, I think you would underprovide in certain areas. For example, central banking would be a mess. Court of law would be a joke. NASA, medical research. Those things would be completely non-existent. And lastly, I have an issue with the Rothbardian definition of property. Basically completely neglecting the fact that property requires the retaliation of force, and you neglect that without having objective law.
Okay.
So what would you like to talk about first?
Well, we can talk about the first thing you brought up, the whole utopian aspect of anarchy, which sounds super fucking funny to me because...
Well, I'm very interested to see how you plan to maintain this because you had no answer the last few times.
Oh, I had no answer the last few times.
No, you haven't, so you can do it now if you like.
No, it's funny, though, that you say that anarchy is utopian because anarchy, I think, is as hard-headed as you could possibly get. Like the utopian idea is that you're going to form a successful society on a foundation of aggression.
Can you please use arguments that aren't based on memes, please? I'm a little beyond that. How do you plan to gain your
question? You asked me,
and you're not answering it. You're saying a state of society is utopian, even though we have.
It is utopian. How are you going to form a successful, prosperous, and peaceful country?
Because we have several examples of that right now.
Based on violence, theft, coercion,
United States is pretty
and other acts of aggression.
United States is pretty successful.
Okay, well, what's your metric for success?
I mean, I think a lot of people have the opportunity to succeed. We have a free market. It provides very good opportunity for everybody. It also actually exists.
Those are very vague.
I don't see how.
All
Capitalism's not particularly vague.
Well, the United States is not.
We enforce property rights. We have social norms. It is capitalism because it's private ownership of the means of production.
It is not free market capitalism.
What is capitalism? Define it.
Well, so you can't have capitalism.
That's not what I asked. What is capitalism? Define it. Don't change the definition to fit your narrative. What is it?
Private property.
Private ownership of the means of production.
Yes.
Who owns the means of production?
The people. That's not the only fucking definition.
That's the definition of capitalism. That's just as bad as saying it wasn't real socialism.
Okay, free market capitalism.
It's a true Scotsman fallacy.
Price wars, price ceilings, Pregovian taxes, like whatever. That is not free market capitalism.
It's literally a true Scotsman fallacy.
There is so much state involvement inside of the market. It is not free market.
We doesn't mean it's not capitalism.
Between the lines of a command economy and a free market, but we are not at a free market.
We are absolutely capitalism by every definition of it. Private ownership of the means of production. It's capitalism. It's a true Scotsman fallacy.
It's not a binary statement.
Well, you can argue where the government should or shouldn't be involved, but to say it's not capitalism is just incorrect.
I'm not saying it's not capitalism. It is not free market.
You said that earlier, which is what I objected to.
Free
but
market.
Getting back to point, would you like to talk about how you plan to achieve this stateless society?
Yeah, I mean, What do you want to know about it?
How you plan to achieve it?
Well, it's not some overnight thing.
Okay, so how do you plan to get there?
Education, decentralization.
Okay, well, education, for example, if you look at a lot of the prestigious universities, they're predominantly leftist.
Okay, that has nothing to do with education.
So it's not education, then, is it?
Education does not mean just going to some 4-year college, spending too much money to do it. And
so you're going to an education where you indoctrinate people and say the Federal Reserve is bad. That's basically what you're doing. Do you have any different arguments from the last 3 or 4 debates?
I'm not in. Where is the indoctrination in?
Okay, well, you're basically saying.
How is that indoctrination? How is that indoctrination?
Because if you want people to like end the Fed and you want all these things, you're going to have to teach your narrative. Are you not?
Say that one more time.
If you want people to end the Fed and end the state, you're going to have to present your point of view. Are you not?
Yeah, of course you are.
Because most economists that go to economics school agree that you should not end the Federal Reserve. So it's not education. It's you forcing your view down the basically throats of children.
Okay, so you're saying that...
I'm saying education is not a valid way to end the state.
And why not?
Because again, you're going to have to put your point of view, not necessarily the empirical one.
Well, okay. So I'm having a hard time understanding what you mean by the empirical point of view. Like, what does that have to do with?
How does education correlate to being an anarchist? Explain that to me.
Teaching people about history, teaching people about fucking whatever. I don't...
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure most historians and economists aren't anarchists. So...
yeah, most people aren't anarchists. It doesn't mean that you have to appeal to the majority and say that, well,
I'm not saying that, but if you're going to send them to these schools and teach them that, obviously it's not resulting in them being ANCAPs like you think it will. So that's not a very good answer on how you plan to make people anarchists.
You keep bringing up these schools. I'm not in favor of these publicly run.
Okay, well, you can have people read Mises.com if you want all day long. That's not doing anything.
Okay. I don't see what the argument here...
You have no way to actually end the state. We've debated this before several times. My position hasn't changed.
We have no way to end the state because you don't think that it could be something that's educated, even though the liberty movement has grown significantly.
No, because educated people aren't anarchists.
So what if most people aren't anarchists? You know that
educated people aren't anarchists.
3% of people actively oppose the crown. What does popularity have to do with any of it?
What I'm telling you is people that actually get educated in these topics, like economics and history, they're not anarchists. So if your idea is to educate them, that's clearly not working for you very well.
Okay, well, there's education, there's decentralization, there's agorism,
I don't see how decentralization, like, okay, that's cool, you decentralize part of the government, that doesn't make you an anarchist.
No, it's slow decentralization moving towards states' rights.
So it's gradualism.
Yes.
Okay, well then how would you argue against a minarchist, though? Because we brought this up earlier. My argument against a minarchist when I was an anarchist was that gradualism doesn't work and the state is always growing.
Say that one more time.
My argument when I was an anarchist against minarchists was that you can't wither away the state. It's the same argument I had against communists who believe they can wither away a state. I don't see how you plan to do that. Or what example you can provide where you're able to successfully wither away a state.
So say you get down, what would you define as a true minarchist government?
I mean, it's somewhat subjective, but a minarchist government is generally one that's a very small government. It's not anarchist. There's objectively a government. So that's a big distinction.
It's got very specific roles. Do you know what those are?
Not necessarily, because minarchy can fit a number of situations. There's minarchists that believe in dividing the country up. And you have a big government section, a small government section, a conservative section, a liberal section. There's not just one branch. It's very vague.
Okay, so minarchy is also known as the night watchman state. And it's
not inherently.
The only role of the government is to enforce rights.
Not inherently. There's different minarchists. That's like saying the only anarchists are capitalist.
Well, I mean, I do think that because anarcho-communism doesn't work.
Well, I mean, it doesn't work, but I don't think anarcho-capitalism it works either. But I still acknowledge it's an idea.
And so, what about historical examples of anarcho-capitalism?
You mean like Iceland? You mean like Ireland back in?
Yeah.
You mean the tribal tribes?
I mean, those worked for a long time. It was just it's a deal about culture.
I mean, they didn't really do much. They just kind of were there. They flooded government. They lived on Iceland and they didn't really contribute much until they eventually got wiped away by the successful army.
I don't know much about Iceland, but I do know enough about
even Ireland, they eventually got invaded and they died.
Yeah, they eventually got invaded after 1,000 years. So,
well,
I mean, they lasted almost as long as the Roman Empire, which is the longest lasting.
And what did they contribute?
What do you mean, what did they contribute?
What did they contribute? What did they do?
Well, as much as anybody else during the Dark Ages.
Not really. I mean, you had more going in Africa than Ireland at the time. They literally did nothing. They were a tribe.
That's not true.
What did they do then? Tell me. I've been asking. What did they do?
Well, so they set up a pretty extensive idea of civics, lots of philosophy. As for, like, if you're talking about machines of war and stuff like that, yeah, not much came out of Ireland because there wasn't a need for it.
They were more or less a tribe. They sat around basically teepees and fire, and they talked about the spirits in the tree. I think I'll stay to my society.
They had
their court system was a joke.
In castles, so how the fuck are they living in teepees and trees?
They had they know that they lived in tribes because we have historical evidence it was tribal.
Yeah,
you might have had some people living in nice places.
They're not living in fucking teepees.
You might have had. It might not have been teepees, but it's the same concept. I said that.
Well, they were fucking castles, so they're living in the exact same thing that the British or whoever.
How many people lived in castles?
What's that?
How many of them lived in castles?
I don't know, dude. You want me to throw out a random number?
I mean, why not? It's not very much, though. You just had your hierarchy that lived there. Not very impressive. And they ended up getting wiped out by an invader. How many people were they able to repel? How many invasions were they able to repel?
They repelled the Normans, and they lasted from 700 until 1700.
How many invasions were they able to repel?
I just said they fought back against the Normans.
And how well did that work?
What the fuck do you mean how well did that work? They fought back against them. They repelled them out of Ireland, and they lasted for 1,000 years.
And they got wiped out by an invasion. So
and the Roman Empire got wiped out by a bunch of Huns and Visigoths and shit.
The Roman Empire, they collapsed mostly due to corruption, and they had mercenaries. And keep in mind, the Roman Empire actually did things. They were able to survive several invasions. Iceland got invaded, and they got slaughtered.
And so this perfect example of, a powerful, long-lasting, prosperous state dies from the inside, but...
I'm not arguing for corruption or their monetary policy. You're comparing two totally separate things.
Because that's inherently...
No, it's not.
That's inherently part of the state.
How is that monetary policy? That's objectively
I'm talking about corruption. I'm talking about corruption.
You have corruption everywhere. That's inherent within human nature.
Okay, we're getting way sidetracked.
So the point is, I find anarchy to be pretty utopian, especially in the modern sense. I think if you really wanted to have a stateless society, you could form kind of a tribal situation, but I'm not particularly impressed by that.
And how is anarchy utopian as compared to the state?
Because we actually have a state, and it actually works. It exists.
How does state work?
You get mad that I bring up hypothetical situations. Your entire ideas are hypothetical. How does a state work? You're literally living in
how is this state successful? How is the United States successful right now?
We're not doing too bad. We're the wealthiest nation on the entire country.
But what government programs are more successful than the private side?
Military, court of law, just to name a few.
Okay, so let's go with military. Let's go with military first. We spent
Okay, let's go with military.
We spent $4.7 trillion in Iraq and Afghanistan, and what do we have to show for it? What about that?
See, I'm not defending Iraq or Afghanistan war.
Okay, you just said we have a strong military. Well, obviously,
I would say our military is more
if we
successful
fucking lose
than
against a bunch of
guns.
mud hut goat fuckers over in the Middle East.
Well, if you would stop using a straw man fallacy, I think a military is much stronger than a bunch of rebels with a gun.
Obviously not, because we fucking lost. So
really, because pretty sure I don't see the United States completely overrun by, as you called them, what, goat fuckers?
We spent $4.7 trillion. We have nothing to show for it.
Again, I'm not defending the Iraq War. I don't know why you're consistently using a strawman fallacy. I'm arguing that an anarchist society would not be able to use they would not be able to repel a foreign invader, and you're spinning that and trying to say I somehow support the Iraq War. If you could please actually refute the point, that would be great.
Tell me how our military has been successful or effective.
We haven't been overrun.
Okay, so we haven't
been nuked. We haven't been bombed.
Okay.
I mean, how do you plan to stop that with your stateless society? You would have
okay, so hold on. I don't see a stateless society getting nuked, but let's go back to.
That's because there are none.
Hold on. Let's go back to the effect. Okay. Let's go back to the effectiveness. Are you going to answer my
question, or are you going to keep dodging it?
Are you going to keep talking over me? Are you
going to dodge my question? How do you plan to actually use a successful defense on a national level with your anarchist society?
Okay. Would you
have a plane dropping a bomb? How are you going to do it?
All right, we'll talk about it. Say in this hypothetical ANCAP land that you don't like, there's a bunch of people living in like what used to be a state, right? And then another country tries to come in and invade that state. Are you going to watch that other country go in and invade and not do anything about it? Or are you going to band together with other people who are there and repel them off?
You're not shooting down a plane. How are you shooting down a drone? How are you shooting down a plane? I mean, you think Afghanistan's successful? It's a shithole.
Why do you need to shoot down a plane? I mean, the Afghans repelled us with AK-47s and PKMs, so I don't see.
Because they're not going to just invade you. Why would I invade you? Why would I invade an ANCAP society? I can just bomb you from a distance.
Because what's your point? You're just spending money to bomb people.
Maybe I want your resource. You're a successful society. Maybe I want your resources.
So if you want the resource, you're going to have to come in and put boots on the ground to get it, right?
Or I could blow the shit out of you and then go take what I need. I could take your land. Why did Hitler invade? I mean, you're the one that hates the state and talks about how evil it is.
Oh my God, dude, listen to yourself. So you're going to bomb the country, turn it into glass, and then come in and take the resources?
You can go in and you can take the land. Yeah, land's a resource, you know. I mean, you're the one talking about how evil the state is, so why
wouldn't you? With nothing there, it's just flat, barren wasteland. You spend all that money to blow it up. And
it doesn't have to be a wasteland. I mean, we've bombed the shit out of countries before and people have taken it.
Like what?
We've bombed Japan. We've bombed other nations. So how do you plan on actually repelling that?
And did we take it over?
I mean, you could if you wanted to. We're not trying to take over land, but if a nation wanted your country, they could take it.
So
I don't see how you plan on defending it. You keep dodging the point. How would you stop a plane from bombing you?
What's your point?
How do you stop a plane from bombing you?
How do you stop a plane from bombing you?
Yeah,
people band together, buy a Stinger missile. I don't know. Like
they're gonna buy a Scud missile, okay. That's fine.
What you think the state just ceases doing?
No, you're not going to just go together.
They just
go door to door and see if you can get your neighbors to go buy a fucking anti-missile defense unit. Go try that. See how well it works.
God, why do you strawman this so much?
Because you're saying you need something to defend yourself.
People would pay into a militia or something like that?
Go do it then. Go see if people will do it then. Go see how it works out for you. Come back to me.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Go try to see if people would actually fund that. See what happens.
Right now, with the United States.
Yeah, go see if anyone would be willing to do that. I guarantee most of them wouldn't. Where's that money going to come from?
This is a false equivalence. You're asking me how in an ANCAP society...
Yes, how are you going to get people
to fund an
anti-defense unit?
And I'm telling you...
How are you going to get people to do that?
Oh my
God, they're not going to.
I'm telling you that.
Why don't they do it in Africa? Why don't they do it in other nations where their
Bro,
government's weak?
shut the fuck up for just a second.
Answer my question. I've debated you. Like
I'm trying to
3 times and you're
fucking
not
answer
answering.
your question,
So
but you keep
just
talking
said,
over me.
you gave
You
me an
don't-
answer that you're going to come together like a bunch of hippies and buy some
Yeah, a bunch of
anti-aircraft
hippies
unit.
with fucking guns that are trying
Do
to.
you know how much that cost? You're just going to get your neighbors to just drop billions of dollars so they can properly defend themselves.
Why are
against
your
an incoming
neighbors
army?
dropping billions of dollars? Dude, what kind of fucking arguments are these? One, you're not going to.
Where are you going to get the money from? You think it's going to just fall out of the sky?
You're going to fucking pool money together. What do you think the fucking
You're
U.S.
not going to
military
do that.
budget comes from? It comes from people being
tax
taxed to
them.
put money together.
It's not voluntary. That's why we take it. You're going to have to do the same thing, or you're not going to get the funds you need.
Why does it have to be involuntary?
Because people won't do it. You're just so caught up on morality instead of what's beneficial.
People aren't going to band together to protect themselves? Like,
No,
dude,
people
are
aren't
you
going to
listening
just
your
get
fucking
together. People aren't going to just get together in your neighborhood and drop billions of dollars for your anti-air.
Why are people dropping billions of dollars? People would drop.
The government's
It's
doing
like
it.
what people
Thank you,
do now.
government.
What?
The government's doing that, thankfully, because we don't have a bunch of libertarians running the government.
Could you just give like one real
I've
argument?
given you an argument how you plan to actually get people to band together, and you're just saying, "Oh, don't worry, people will band together. They just must." Well, yeah,
I'm telling you, if you live in this society and there's an outside threat coming to attack you,
are
not going
delusional.
to do anything about it.
You're not going to be able to get billions of dollars.
Does there need to be a fucking government for you to go?
You're not going to get billions of dollars just thrown together.
Put your ass up in the air and.
You can do whatever you want. If they drop bombs on you, and I don't have billions of dollars to go invest in an anti-air unit, that's not
Why do
going
you
to
need
happen.
billions of dollars? Do you have a couple $1,000s? Can you go buy?
Do you know how much it costs? Do you know how much it would cost to repel a decent-sized military?
Less than it would
It's
cost
for
for
more
them.
than $1 billion.
It would cost less than it would cost for them to come over and invade you, drop all that ordnance, pay their soldiers to put the boots on the ground, and everything like that.
Well over $1 billion, and you're not telling me how you plan on getting it. Your only argument boils down to, oh, people will throw money in it because they just must.
Coming up with these dollar amounts.
How much do you think you need to repel a large-scale military? Tell me. Give me a number. Tell me what to work with.
I think, well, I'm just going to throw a fucking number out. If everyone in the United States, just like what Emperor Hirohito was so scared about, if everyone in the United States was armed, it would be more than sufficient.
You realize that was a false quote, by the way, right?
What's that?
That's not a real quote. He never actually even said that. The well-armed populace, that's not a real quote. It's a fake quote.
Okay, well, I think it's true nonetheless. I'm going to look that up and verify that, but it's true nonetheless.
Go do it. The point is, I don't see how you plan on coming to billions of dollars. And your argument, as always, boils down to people will just do it. That's not a good argument for me.
Okay.
Just saying it must happen to fit your narrative. Well, yeah, that would be real convenient to your argument. I think you're incredibly.
I have a historical example which proves my point that's happened in the last decade.
Don't say Afghanistan.
That's exactly what I'm going to fucking say. You can laugh about it. You can laugh about it, but
I knew you were going to say that.
We lost a war to a bunch of people with AK-47s, PKMs, and IEDs. It doesn't matter how many troops we put on the ground there. It doesn't matter what we did, how many drums we bought, or
you realize how much of a
anything like that. We were not able to take it over.
Do you realize how much of a shithole Afghanistan is? That's the best example you can throw at me.
That's exactly the point. It's a fucking shithole, and we were not able to take it over.
They got fucked. You have IEDs all over the place. That's the best example you have of anarcho-capitalism. I think you're
proving my fucking point.
That it's a shithole country, and that's the best one you have for
me. But it's a shithole country.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to live in war-torn Afghanistan. Forgive me. Go live in Afghanistan then. If that's the best example you have, it's a shithole. Sorry, I don't want to live in a war zone. Do you think your argument's through at all? Have you thought 2 seconds?
Do I think my argument's through? Bro, are you listening to yourself?
Yes, you're saying Afghanistan is an example. Sure, we didn't take them over because, number one, that wasn't really our point. Our point was to kill terrorists. And number two, it's a fucking war zone.
Because now there's more terrorists now than there were at the beginning of the war, so we couldn't.
That's another thing I want to talk into is the fact that you blame it all on interventionists and I blame it more on religion.
All right, so let's talk about our successful interventionism. That
I never said it was successful. That's a straw man. I'm saying it's a war-torn shithole, and I don't see how you see that as just being a safe place to live.
You just attacked me for not being an interventionist, so I'm going to assume that you don't.
I don't support the Afghanistan war. I'm just saying Afghanistan isn't exactly a peaceful society I would want to live in. It's war-torn. I don't see why you're just hard over it.
Now it is. Us, the Russians.
It was a shithole before.
The British before them.
Islamic
a lot of people have been in Afghanistan fucking it up for a long time.
It's an Islamic shithole.
Okay.
Their IQ
it's
is
a shithole. It's a shithole that beat the U.S. But
it's a shithole that's a war zone, and I don't know why you think that's a good model or a good example to say, oh, there's good foreign policy.
I mean,
they literally have drones smashing into them.
Hey, it's not just Afghanistan. It's Vietnam. It's Vietnam.
Vietnam's a shithole. They lost 2.5 million troops. Okay, you lose 2.5 million. Okay, have fun. Have fun living in Vietnam. It's a shithole. Their cancer rates were through the roof because of Agent Orange.
So they, in their economic shithole that was fucking
it's a war-torn shithole.
That was destroyed by
the examples you're giving me. The examples you're giving me are war-torn shitholes.
Super poor area to begin with.
It's super poor. It's a shit-torn war zone.
They beat the largest military in the world. The United States was at that point.
And they lost 2.5 million. And they're a war zone. So I don't see why you're saying that's great. They beat us
and they were poor. I'm sure that if the United States was at its current state or, at just a basic state and we had Russia or whoever come over, we would do a lot better.
But are you just going to dodge the point I keep making? These are war-torn shitholes.
Okay. They are. And
so obviously they're not this great. I don't want to live in a war zone. I'd rather have something deter that from another government, be it a United States or something else.
And what I'm telling
Instead, the war was on their home front. They lost millions of lives. They're a shithole. I think it's a horrible example you brought up.
They lost millions of lives, and they still beat us.
And they lost millions of lives.
It's impossible for us to when there's non-resistance, and that's only going to continue happening as technology improves.
It's a war-torn shit. It's a war zone. It's war-torn. It's a shithole. I think I'll enjoy living in the United States.
As technology improves, and the average American human household, the average American human household is able to get a hold of fully automatic weapons, things like that.
What do you think is going to happen with the government? You think they're just going to go stagnant? You don't think they'll buy these things too?
It's just going to be easier for us to repel invasions.
So what do you think is going to happen as technology improves? You think government's just not going to buy that for their military?
No,
they're just pretending as if they're stagnant.
Technology increasing is the best. It's the
so it
best
also increases what the military can do.
Anarchy. What?
So as technology improves for the military or for weaponry, that also accounts for the military as well, not just militias. You realize this, correct?
Yeah.
As technology grows exponentially, that also helps a military.
Yeah, and as technology grows exponentially, the most effective unit size on a battlefield decreases, and it gets down to the point where
it gets down to technology, which is incredibly expensive. It's not like you have farmers with guns.
And my point is that favors defenders, and it makes it easier for you to withstand enemy invasion.
I disagree because that technology would also go to militaries, and that could just as easily be used.
What's the?
I mean, you understand technology. It goes usually to the military first.
Right? All right. So,
do you understand my argument?
This technology increases. Now, this enemy government, not sure who it is, but they've got nukes.
Any military, theirs goes up. If anything, it's more.
Fucking God, I wish you'd just let me talk for a second.
I wish you would just actually address my arguments because you've done this the last few debates. You beat around the bush. Please just talk.
Am I good? Am I good to talk?
I just want to make sure you understand my point because you don't. What I am saying is it's not just the average household household that sees a technology boom. It's also the military, the government. Their technology gets better, and their technology will consistently be far, far ahead of the average citizen.
Yes, but technology favors the defender. And what I wanted to say was that so the state,
How?
like we're talking,
how does it favor the defender?
Oh, fucking God, dude.
How does it favor the defender? Drones.
I've already talked about this for a few minutes now.
How does drones favor the defender? That favors the attacker. How do it just as easily favors the attacker?
Dude. Back at year 0, everybody's fighting with slings and fucking swords.
Completely even. Yes, I agree. Even.
Completely even. So now
muskets. Let's go to muskets. Let's take it step by step. Muskets. Probably a small favor for a military, a state.
It's still pretty much completely even. Now,
more or less.
Now you've got fully automatic weapons.
And the government has tanks and planes and nukes.
Mm-hmm.
Heavily in favor of the government. So as technology, thank you for bringing up the timeline. As technologies increase with time, it's more and more favored governments. That's why we see a lot of revolutions now happening in very poor regions where you have very, in general, weak governments. So yeah, that kind of proves my point.
And so we're running around in circles because then it just goes right back to most powerful military the world's ever seen, Afghanistan, mud hut dwelling goat fuckers.
And that goes back for me. Okay, that's great. We didn't take over Afghanistan. Afghanistan's a war-torn shithole. I think I'll avoid that. I'd much rather be a citizen in the United States than in Afghanistan, with or without a government.
I don't know why.
It's war-torn.
That's like the whole argument that I have to choose between the United States and Somalia.
I mean, you can pick any government. I'd rather be in the society that's not war-torn.
I would rather
that's obviously
live on the property that I buy and not have to
You
worry.
obviously brought up the Afghan war, so that kind of implies Afghanistan, United States. So that's kind of why I use that. Use any example. I'd rather be in the society that's not war-torn.
Yeah, everybody would. What's your fucking point?
Because you brought up an example that's war-torn as being successful.
That's the only piece that I wanted you to take from that was that it was war-torn. I didn't want you to take the fact.
You try to say that it's successful in repelling a military, and sure, we're not able to overtake the country, though. If the United States really wanted to dedicate its full time and effort, it could. The point I'm making is it's not particularly successful.
$1 sounds like a fuck ton of money.
Drop a nuke. You could have took it over if you really wanted to.
Drop a nuke. Just take over. Drop a nuke. Take over the nuclear wasteland that is Afghanistan. For what point?
I mean, you don't have to take it over right away. Drop a nuke on a major city. Drop the shit out. I mean, the thing is, the point wasn't to control it. We didn't want territory. In
your effort to claim that statism is better than anarchy, you bring up that a state could drop.
No, you fundamentally don't understand my point. What I'm saying is, if the United States wanted
a state to drop a nuclear weapon on a city, kill hundreds of millions of people or millions of people.
If they wanted to, could they not? That's my point. Could they not? Yes or no? I'm not saying they should.
Would any of this happen in the anarchist system? Who's going to spend
it could be an anarchist
to develop and build a nuke to drop it on random?
What I'm saying is, if the United States wanted to totally wipe out Afghanistan, could it not?
What's up?
If the United States wanted to wipe out Afghanistan, could it not?
What would be the point of it? Yeah.
That's not the point of it. It could. Okay, so that's my point. My point is that's not what the United States wanted. What the United States wanted was to go over there, kill terrorists. I'm not defending the point. I'm not saying Afghanistan was a war I support. What I'm saying is the goal of Afghanistan wasn't to take it over. And you're trying to equip that. What I'm trying to say is it's war-torn. It's a shithole. Yeah, the mission wasn't very successful, but
I know the goal of Afghanistan was to take it over, but what I'm telling you is that we didn't even accomplish.
So why are you so surprised that? Why were you so surprised that they were managed to not get taken over by the United States if that was the goal of the attacker?
Say that one more time. I wasn't listening.
Why are you so surprised that we did not take over Afghanistan when you're well aware our goal was not to take over Afghanistan?
It wasn't about taking it over. What I said that we couldn't.
What was the point?
We couldn't even do what we went there to do.
What was the point? It was to kill terrorists, was it not?
We made more terrorists by the time we left than were first initially there.
I would argue Islam's a big radicalizer of terrorism.
Okay, well, this is not about Islam. This is about the United
States. Well, it is if you bring up terrorism. If you're saying
this is about a state not even effectively being able to do what it set out to do for $4.7 trillion.
What you're saying was that it created terrorism. I'm not sure what evidence you have for that, but I will say, historically speaking, Islam has been spread by the sword. Islam has been spread by the sword, and terrorist organizations to this day cite the Quran. And regardless of your opinions on it,
I hate Islam just as much as you do. But what I'm telling you,
so don't you agree that has an impact on it? And the point I was making was, the United States didn't try to take it over. We tried to kill a lot of bad terrorists.
Yes,
whether you agree with it or not.
We tried to. All right, here, let me fucking break this down for you, Barney style. We go in.
Well, I just think you need to pick your argument.
Shut the fuck up for 1 second.
You don't understand, though. You fundamentally don't understand what you're saying. You're saying they weren't able to repel them, and I'm like, well, no shit, because that was kind of their point. You can't just change your argument every time you use a point.
I am not changing my fucking argument.
You said the United States couldn't conquer Afghanistan.
For just 1
and they haven't.
Fucking second. I'm going to break this down for you.
Please
go in. The United States go. Please stop talking for just a second.
Okay.
The United States goes in to kill terrorists and eradicate the Al-Qaeda threat, right?
Yes. Thank you for conceding that point.
All right. So the United States goes into Afghanistan. We kill hundreds of thousands of civilians and terrorists. Now, not only do we still have the Taliban there.
I'm just warning you, you're going to be strawmanning me.
We also have. I am not strawmanning you.
I'm not defending the United States intervention. I've repeated this several times to you.
There are more Taliban terrorists.
You're strawmanning me.
Inside of Afghanistan than
you are totally strawmanning me.
ISIS
again for the 5th time.
Holy fuck,
I'm not supporting the Afghanistan intervention. So I don't know why you're sitting there saying,
for you to just say, "Oh, I don't support Afghanistan," like blah blah blah.
I've said that.
I don't give a fuck if you support Afghanistan. I'm telling you.
So why are you pointing that out? Like, oh, look, your ideas don't work. Like, well, yeah, I agree. We shouldn't have invaded Afghanistan. The IQ there is like 60. So no, I don't think you should invade a low IQ area and try to save them. I've stated this multiple times. I don't know why you continue to act as if that's my idea.
Dude, I don't know how many times you can say you can keep bringing up the fact that Afghanistan, they are by all measures.
So why are you bringing it up?
Retarded, backwards, etc. But they can still hold off the United States.
They're war torn. They're shit. I disagree. I'd rather not live in the war zone. I'd rather live in the country that's not a war zone, and that's the United States.
Okay, so let's take a little juke
to the left drones flying over Afghanistan.
Beat this dead horse to a pulp. So let's move
I think we should just move on. I think the point of this
we are gonna move on.
I don't know why you think Afghanistan's a successful idea of foreign policy. Like, they have drones flying all over them. I wouldn't want that. But I'm also interested to hear you kind of strayed away also from the fact that I don't think it's really achievable.
Okay, so no. Hold on, because I want to bring up a point, and I have for the last few minutes. But
go for it.
Without a state, where are you going to get these huge armies of people who want to go halfway across the world and bomb unsuspecting people who've done nothing to them? In what other situation would you get American, red-blooded, America-loving Americans from the flyover states?
I don't know if
I understand. Away at 18 and go to Afghanistan and kill people who they have no reason to kill.
Well, it's not as if they have no reason. These people would slit your throat if they got to hit their hands on you. They're not exactly good people. Let's not play them out to be the victim. But I don't know if I fully understand your point.
Every one of them, dude, would they all slit your throat?
Generally speaking, terrorists are pretty violent. I mean, they do kill innocent people. They do it over there. They have sex slaves.
No, this is totally true. But all those women and children that we bombed in villages with JDAMs.
I mean, ISIS has sex slaves. Actually, I'm really glad you brought that up because I do have some sources on drones. And there's a lot of myths, actually, about the civilian casualty rate. I can bring that up in a second. It's actually one of the safest once my Google Doc loads. But No, like ISIS, they have sex slaves, so I don't know why you're making them out to be a victim.
I'm not, dude. I hate Islam probably more
So
than
they're not innocent. You're saying we're killing people for no reason. That's not necessarily the
is
case.
every human being in the Middle East part of ISIS?
Never said that. Don't know why you're strawmanning
Well,
me
that's
again,
exactly what you're fucking insinuating. I am
no,
completely
I
aware
very,
of all
very,
the
very
fucked up shit.
specifically.
I am completely aware of all the fucked up
You're
shit that
not
ISIS is
listening to
doing.
me. Open your ears. You're not listening to me. I very clearly stated ISIS and terrorists. I don't know why you try to spin that to say I said everyone. All you have to do is listen to me. That just proves you're not listening to my point. You're
Cool.
just rambling on your
ISIS.
talking
What
points.
percentage of people in the Middle East do you think ISIS accounts for?
I don't have the numbers on me because they don't go and poll people to see if they're members of ISIS.
Okay, what you think? Maybe 5%, 10%?
I don't know. I don't pull facts on my ass, so I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, that is very, very. That would be an extreme estimate. So that leaves
How much?
90% or so of people who are not
Okay,
associated.
so 10% are ISIS. So how much is that? What's the population in the Middle East?
I don't know, man. Like 1.3
Give me a number. 3 million?
1.3 billion.
Okay, that's fair. So what's 10% of that?
Dude, all of these
This is
things,
basic
that you're
stats.
talking about, I like.
Well, hang on. Don't dodge my
examples that you
point.
bring
You
up-
said 10%, like that's not a lot of people. Well, sure, until you mention the fact that there's billions of people there.
Dude, here, my fact was coming at you, and it just fucking, you missed it. You fucking missed it. You dropped it.
Again, you said that only 10%.
What I was trying.
You said, again, you're going to have to listen to me. You said only 10% is ISIS. Well, if there's billions of people, like you said, that's a substantial amount, is it not? Yes or no? Don't dance around it, please.
I agree with you. That's not the point.
Okay, so you concede that.
I wish that you
concede that then.
And let me just make one point to its conclusion, and then
Okay, so you concede that. Please get to the actual point then.
I don't like ISIS and I don't like Islam. Why?
Okay. I never said you did there. I simply said to say that's not an issue is misleading because you don't understand how statistics work.
Before you went off on this weird tangent,
you brought up the numbers and you said that there wasn't that many. You're like, oh, I'm being conservative. There's only 10%. And then I said, okay, 10% of a billion people is a substantial amount.
And so do you think that the other 90%...
Stop dodging that.
And do you think that the other 90% there is any moral argument to turn them into targets of war?
I never said kill civilians.
Bro,
I don't know why you
my fucking God. The point
You're saying turn them into targets.
This was all
I don't support that.
This was all brought up to show that the only way that people are going to go, or the likelihood is drastically, almost infinitely increased.
Okay, you've got to go step by
going
step.
From one country in the world, halfway
Hang on a second, because you're changing the topics.
To kill
Hang
people
on, you're changing the topics. You're changing the topics. So let's go over the points you addressed. You said about 10% are ISIS. No clue where you actually got that number from, but whatever, I'll go with it.
Dude,
I pointed out a billion.
10% is way.
If you would shut the hell up and let me finish.
No, I'm sorry.
Even if it is, whatever number it is, if it's a billion people, if it's 1%, that's a large number. Not sure why you brought that up, because then you changed your point and you said, oh, so should the rest be targets of war? No, I don't support doing that. So I'm not really sure your point.
Okay, so Bro.
You can laugh, but you're not making a point. You're making half-ass arguments.
I was making a point until you fucking took it and ran with it off the field.
I hit every single point you talked about. You talked about the stats. I pointed out how you're being very misleading. Then you tried to say, should we make the rest targets of war? And I said, no, we shouldn't.
Bro, the whole point of me bringing any of this up in the first place.
Okay, drones.
You just gotta listen. Was that there is the only reason that people are going across the world to kill other people is because they're told by a state to do so.
Okay, well that's not true. People kill other people for other reasons. I mean, for example, guerrillas go to war. They're not a state. It's kind of part of a revolution.
Bro, give me the last time that a group of people got together and they were like, hey, let's go kill a bunch of people on the other side of the world. Let's go take over that country.
Well, it might not be on the other side of the world, but it's close to each other. It happens all the time elsewhere, does it not? Does war not happen elsewhere around the world? Do people not go to war?
Of course war fucking happens. But my point
Okay,
was,
and it doesn't have to be for governments.
my
I mean,
point
we have
was
governments
that the
everywhere.
only reason I can't say the only reason. My point was that the chances of people going to war and killing people that they do not know or they have no emotional stake in killing whatsoever is infinitely increased when there becomes a state and they believe that they're
So a few
involved for their
points.
sins of killing.
A few points. Number one, it insists in war is inherently bad. I think you would also disagree with that because, I mean, you might have to go to.
I think aggressive
war.
war, yes, is inherently bad.
Well, I mean, then it's somewhat dependent. I mean, what is deemed aggression? How much is too much? You know, I mean, especially if you have another militia. And the other point I wanted to bring up was it's not just the state that does that. That's kind of part of our biology, if you will. I mean, orangutans go to war. We have that documented. They obviously don't have a state.
Do you
So
think
people
they're?
go to
Do you
war.
think I'm?
Religion
Do you think I'm
is another
claiming?
great example. Religion,
Bro,
another great
oh
example
my
of why people
God.
go to war.
You're just assuming that I'm claiming
making
that there would
very
be
good
no
points.
war and no fighting in anarchy.
You said the reason people go across the world to kill other people for no reason is because of the government. But I also pointed out there's other reasons that motivate that. And I think religion would be a very good example as just one obvious one. There's been a lot of wars because of religion. So I also mentioned the biology behind it.
Dude, I am not saying that there would be no fighting or anything like that in anarchy.
You're saying it's more likely with the state.
What I'm saying is that the state makes it possible to mobilize large groups of people with a lot of money and a lot of weapons of war and go use it on whoever the bureaucrat
Before we switch to the next topic, go ahead.
Fit to use it on. That
You're
wouldn't
cutting in and out,
happen.
so sometimes it's hard to interrupt. I swear I don't try to interrupt you. You're cutting in and out. Before we hit to the next topic, you said, I want to make sure I heard you, that the only reason we're able to fight a war, a substantial war, is because we have a state. My question is, why is that inherently wrong?
Say that one more time.
Why is that inherently wrong?
Why is what inherently wrong?
Why is it inherently wrong to organize and fight a war maybe across the globe?
So, are you serious? wasn't inherently wrong to fight an
but
aggressive?
if you get attacked by another, or maybe you have even a stateless society, doesn't have to be a government society. Maybe it's across the world. Are you not defended to attack them back after they attack you? That's not inherently wrong, is it? It's not aggression.
So who attacked us in
Nation A?
Allegedly.
Nation A attacked you, or they attacked your boat, or they did something.
Okay, so
some act of war.
Nation A attacks us.
Yep.
So we
across
mobilize
the country.
So Nation A, like a ship.
Or across the world, I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay, a ship of Nation A comes over and attacks us, and we mobilize, and we go over and we kill every man, woman, and child inside Nation A. We're morally obligated or allowed to do so.
But now you're contradicting yourself, because earlier you said the only reason we're able to organize and kill people on the other side of the planet is because we have a state. So why is it that's not the case? I
contradict myself, dude.
Because you said the only reason we're able to organize and kill people on the other side of the planet is because we have a government. You just said you would do that in your anarchist society. It's self-contradicting and self-defeating.
I did not say no. Oh my fucking God, man.
You can rewind it if you want. You can rewind it.
Holy fucking shit, man.
You can rewind the YouTube video. You said it. I just caught you in a contradiction.
What I said was that there would not be people mobilizing and going to war on the other end of the world and fighting against people who these other people from whatever anarcho-capitalist society they're coming from would have any moral stake in wanting to kill.
What you said when I brought this up earlier was I asked, why is it inherently bad to go to war on the other side of the country? And you said, are you serious? Why would you need that? Are you serious? I gave you an example once that's needed and asked you how you would operate such an attack. It seems you're somewhat weakening your own militia.
When the fuck? What?
You can rewind the debate. You said it. I mean, I heard you and I wrote it down. I have it written right here.
I'm sorry. Tell me what I said one more time.
You said the only reason we're able to organize and go to the other side of the world and kill people whom we don't know is because we have a government. And then you said you would do that with your state of society.
No, I fucking didn't.
Yes, you did.
No,
Moderator, did he say that? I swear to God you did. You can laugh. I just caught you in a contradiction.
Oh, bro. No, siree. No way,
I mean, you
Jose, did
contradict
I say
yourself.
that
You can
shit.
laugh, but you're just contradicting yourself. It doesn't actually change the fact that it's self-contradictory.
Bruh. Jesus Christ. You think I said that people
No, you did. I have
in
it
an
right here.
anarcho-capitalist society would go halfway across the world, spend money to
You
kill people?
literally just said that. Specifically because I caught you in a contradiction. I heard you say something that otherwise would be somewhat questionable. So I brought up that situation. You said that Nation A attacked you, you would organize, you would kill everybody. There's no moral obligation. It's self-contradicting from your previous statement. I mean, you can laugh, but anyone can rewind the debate and hear you say that, and you can hear my scenario. I very clearly mentioned it. It was very purposeful. It wasn't just me using word salad.
Okay, so just to clarify, what did you think that I wanted to do?
You said
I'm sorry.
that, before I move on to the next topic, you said that a nation would not, the only reason we're able to go to the other side of the world and kill people we don't know is because we have a government. So then I provided the scenario in which you said a stateless society would do that. So obviously that's not true.
No,
So now
you
your
said,
argument contradicts it.
what the fuck? What was this?
You can rewind
what was
it.
this
You're
scenario?
more than
What was
welcome to
this
do it.
scenario that you came up with? What scenario are you talking about?
I very clearly talked about the nation attacking whatever it was. Nation A is what we called it. I know for a fact I said that. You can pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah,
because
no,
it's
you were talking about Nation A.
Yes.
You said
attach
Nation A is
society,
coming.
and you organize and you go across the world and you do whatever you got to do to win the war. You kill everybody over there, like you said. And that contradicts your previous statement. But the only reason we're able to do that is because we have a government. All you're doing is fitting scenarios to fit your argument.
So Nation A is anarchist.
Did you honestly ask that?
In your fucking scenario, that makes no sense.
Nation A is a government that attacked you.
So then how did I say that anarchists are going to go halfway across the world and kill people, spend money to kill people that they don't know?
I swear to God, you can rewind it. That's exactly what you said. I said Nation A attacks your society, whatever, government, whatever. Whatever they do to attack you, they start an act of war, was my wording. And that was how you would go and resolve it. Which I'm not saying it's unjustified, I'm just saying it's contradictory. And I'll let you can go back and rewind it and listen to it for yourself. But would you like to get to another topic because we're an hour in?
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's move on past this.
All right, what's your mechanism for preserving a libertarian culture?
Self-arming. I don't know. Like, what do you mean?
I talked about this the last debate.
Like what? Like how would I keep libertarian culture?
How do you stop people from coming in that don't uphold to things like the non-aggression? Because there's been other examples where states have collapsed and people who don't hold those beliefs can come into power.
Okay, so in the absence of a state, the state provides protection as of now, right? Like you got cops in the military and things like that. So in the absence of a state, the responsibility of self-protection falls on the individual.
Okay.
So the individual is going to be armed. They're going to protect their own things. It would make it more effective if they banded together to protect themselves. So I don't know how you think that the state goes away and then all of a sudden all of these enemies that are just sitting at the gates flood in.
It's not invasion, it's not war. It's how do you protect basically social norms? You can't shoot that, So I don't see how the arming part's really relevant.
So what social norms are they going to come in and change?
Capitalism. That could be one. Non-aggression, the principle of the non-aggression principle.
Okay,
That's another
hold
one.
on. We're going to take this one at a time. So they come in
Go
and they change capitalism. How do they do that?
Well, I mean, they don't change capitalism. They come
They
into your
start killing. They
society.
start killing people who possess the means of production.
Well, they could, generally speaking, they organize first, and then they would attack. But the point is, like, how do you prevent communism from becoming, or socialism from becoming a norm within your society?
The same way that you prevent it now, but even better, you actually do something about it. You don't allow it to be. You don't teach it in public schools and shit like that.
So what do you do?
Somebody comes and tries to take your property, you kill them.
Okay, well, they don't automatically take your property, do they? That's not
Well,
the first
in
thing they do.
order to move away from capitalism, they have to at some point.
Yeah, but that's the end goal. They don't start at the end goal, do they?
Of course, they don't start at the end goal, but they're going to come and try to take your property. Yeah.
Yes, but they organize. They're socialists to
They
begin
fucking
with.
get
They
gas.
hold certain beliefs, right? They organize. They don't necessarily commit acts of aggression on you, though, do they? Non-aggression, right? They're just socialist, or they're
Yeah, and which is completely fine. If people wanted to move in together and live in a fucking commune in an anarcho-capitalist society, that's fine. They just can't force that onto you.
What are you going to do when they
But
eventually do that,
as soon as they try to take your property or something like that, then fuck.
So you're going to wait till you're attacked before you do anything?
Yeah, of course you would.
Yeah, that's something I guess I fundamentally disagree with. I think it should be more what's beneficial than what's
You
moral.
should just be able to preemptively strike on any information that you're given.
If it's decent, then yes.
Like the 2003 reports on weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, or the Kuwaiti
Well,
baby
now with
being
in
dragged out of
Iraq,
there.
for example, they did find yellow cake uranium.
Big time.
And there were other things, like Saddam was a war criminal. He was a nasty guy. But the point is, like, if you have reason to suspect it, I don't think you have to wait for aggression. And it also gets into the concept of morality, because I don't believe you have this objective set of moral codes. Like ANCAPs very strongly cling to non-aggression and all that sort of thing, but I'm very critical of that notion. Because a lot of the arguments ultimately boil down to what's right, what's wrong. My question is, how do you know what's right or what's wrong? Without using subjective reasoning.
Hold on a sec.
Take your time.
Okay. So I had to start over live stream.
Cool. So what's your refutation to that?
You're gonna have to say it one more time. I wasn't listening. It ended, so I had to.
The moral argument? I'm arguing, how do you prove you have an objective set of moral codes without using subjective reasoning?
Oh my God, are we gonna go over this again? I remember this from last time. That was for sure.
Your argument was that it's wrong to do something, and it kind of fought this.
Hold on. No, I want to stay at this whole like socialists taking over inside.
Well, you said it is. You said it was wrong to do something. I'm asking you, how do you know without subjective reasoning that preemptive strike is wrong?
Because nobody's committed a crime yet.
No subjective reasoning, though. What's inherently wrong with that?
Oh my God.
And it kind of falls to the point that it's not an objective set
of
moral codes.
When are you allowed to use force against people? Just in your...
Well, I would argue it's subjective. That's kind of my stance. I would say in a case where you had communists organize, I could see the need for physical removal, yeah, before they strike you. I think you could do that with other extreme ideologies as well.
Okay, but we're talking about...
Communist work too. We'll do communist. No problem with it. You can do physical removal, deportation, whatever.
Dude, you're bouncing all over the board right now. What I'm saying is, how do you stay on your previous point? Because I want to keep going where we were.
Okay.
We're all in this anarcho-capitalist society, and then the communists start taking over. So you think that you should be able to use force subjectively, right?
No, I said that you
should be able to. I know you should be able to use some sort of preemptive strike because.
Well, no, not quite my stance. I believe in having a security, like, for example, protection from who comes in and out of your society. I believe people that are completely parasitic, break social norms, communists would be an example of that. They would, for all intents and purposes, be deported. I'm not obviously an anarchist. I'm not a hop in. I don't believe in that sort of thing, but I do believe in.
Okay, so the whole objective versus subjective morality, it has a lot to do with exactly what you just said. It's about norms, and not norms.
Well, norms and morality are two totally separate things. I'm saying what's beneficial for society, not what's right or what's wrong. Communism, I argue, is empirically
They almost
bad
go
for
hand
society.
in hand. The whole idea of
Not really.
the whole idea of objective morality is that you are setting up norms by which the human species can live together and thrive, and how you can keep the human species going.
So the thing with the communist is it's empirically shown that communists will absolutely destroy your society. We have empirical data of that. And I'm not even saying there isn't objective morality, but perception of morality is completely subjective, which makes it somewhat hard to reason whether a preemptive strike would be wrong or not. And what I am arguing is that it would be much more beneficial to simply deport these people from your society and have a secure society where you control who comes in and out of your geographical region, which in my case would be borders.
So we're in this anarcho-capitalist society, and you're talking about forced removal,
deportation. Well,
from whose property?
Again, I'm not an anarcho-capitalist. It wouldn't be an anarcho-capitalist society. It would simply be a society. It could be their home, but we would deport them. I'm not an anarcho-capitalist. It wouldn't be in an anarcho-capitalist society. It would be in a statist society.
So you think that is what you're saying, that you have the right to go onto somebody's property and kick them off their property because they don't abide by your...
Yeah, pretty much. Communists, for example, I think are very parasitic, and I think they would be the destruction of any society, so I have no issue physically removing them.
So you think it would... Dude, why to you is it more acceptable to go in and remove them than just let them fail?
Because I would fail.
Some evidentiary support that shows that it doesn't work. Allow these things to be addressed in the battleground of ideas rather than a war, and move on.
Do you know why communism doesn't work? Part of the reason we know for sure. Because people die. Because people kill the capitalists. Because they create these violent revolutions. Before those violent things happen and they take our society down with them, we simply remove them, to where your solution is basically let them bring the society down with you. I'm arguing that would be libertarian suicide.
Why do you think that I'm just going to allow them to come over and take my property and shit like that? That's your argument. I've never said that.
Well, your argument earlier
what I'm saying is that they can live in peace.
You said let them fail, and I tried to explain to you, if you would listen to me. You said just let them fail like it always would. I'm telling you, when they fail, not only are they going to kill the capitalists, they're going to bring your society down with it.
Dude.
They start violent revolutions. Maybe you even win.
Yes, and then when they come and try to act violently upon you, you can fucking kill them. Like, then you can react. What I'm saying is that if they're over and not attacking you, if they're over and not attacking you, let them live in their fucking commune with their hairy armpits.
So you're going to let them attack first.
And let them fail.
So you're going to let them attack you first.
Dude,
understand.
I'm not a fucking pacifist. I'm not going to sit on the border of my property with my ass out over the fence and wait for them to come fuck me.
See, this is like the 8th time you've contradicted yourself. You just said you can't do anything until they do something first. And then you can blow their heads off. So you're waiting for them to attack you first.
Yes, I'm waiting for them to initiate something.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said. I don't know why you keep acting so surprised.
So what do you think? What do you think they're going to initiate? They're going to come walking over to my property with guns and shit like that, and then fucking blast them to Kingdom Come. I use my recreational claymore.
Until you die. You act like you're fucking born. The reality is, you could very easily just get your house burned down. They could shoot up your house. I mean, it's happened throughout the world, throughout history. The capitalists have died. I know you like to think you would just win. You could very easily die, and so could a lot of other people, especially if you give them the upper hand. I think it's
You're making a lot of assumptions with this right now.
Well, anarcho-capitalism is a hypothetical situation. You kind of got to expect it.
Holy fuck! So you're assuming that I'm just going to be sitting like on my porch waiting for them.
No, I'm assuming you're actually going to be asleep when they attack, because that would be the smartest time to do it.
Okay.
Just don't straw man me. That's all I ask. Be intellectually honest when you address me.
And what's protecting you during all this with your state? What's protecting
me? Those people are physically removed before they even get a chance to organize.
Do we physically remove communists now?
Yes, we deport them.
We deport communists.
Yes, we do.
Why is Noam Chomsky still in the United States?
No, I'm not saying we do in the United States. I'm saying we should. In my state, I would deport him.
So this is all hypothetical.
Well, anarcho-capitalism is hypothetical. I'm saying what I would like the state to do is physically remove communists. Now, granted, they do commit act of violence on a small scale right now. It's not particularly prominent in the United States, but there is some acts of aggression. Obviously, I would argue it would be even worse, though, if you were just sleeping in your house and they could attack you. American communists, they're kind of a lot of young, they're idiots right now, but they commit small-scale violence. I'm saying the United States should deport them. I'm not saying they do. I'm saying they should.
Okay, so you're sleeping in your house and the communists take over. What's the state going to do for you?
They throw fire bombs at your house is what I mean. Well, you have a military. You have other actions that could fight back.
Okay, so you got the military. You think the police would help, probably, right?
Well, actually, in my state, you would physically remove them before they did that.
Okay. So in this hypothetical state that you got like a military and you got police to fight back against the communists, right?
No, we physically remove them. We kick them out of the country just like you would deport anyone.
All right. So in this anarcho-capitalist system, you're going to have a bunch of people living around each other, and it's in everybody's best interest.
Why?
All right, you think
Why do they live around each other?
The state fucking goes away and all of us just move out and become homesteaders and nobody lives next to each other?
Okay, so the United States is just going to become anarchist? Is that the scenario you're using, or what scenario? It's hypothetical. They don't have to live next to each other. They could live far away. There's places in the United States, they're miles away from other homes, so I don't... Again, that's not necessarily true. You're just setting up a nirvana situation.
You're assuming there would be no cities. Just everybody lives out on their little farm.
No, you're assuming there are. I'm not assuming anything. You're the one making the assumption.
Dude, even fucking tribes have lived in groups.
Okay, you live in groups, but there's groups of people spread thin throughout. You might have your family with you. You might have your wife and 2 kids and dog, but that's not really people living together. That's just a family in a house together. That's not like a community, I would say.
Okay, so...
Like, people today don't do that, so it's a false assumption.
Okay, so what I was trying to bring up with all this is that you're not going to be just living out in a farm. Not everybody is going to be living out in a farm completely secluded from everybody else. People are still going to live around each other because not everybody's going to revert to some agricultural society where we're all just growing our own food and nothing's happening. People are still going to try to live in cities. People are still going to want to specialize, to have jobs.
So what do you do if your little town gets attacked? Because it's happened before. I mean, communists have attacked communities before and that hasn't done anything. I feel like you're just throwing words out.
Would you not get with all your neighbors and try to fight back?
I would deport them before they got the chance.
Oh my fucking Christ.
I mean, it's pretty simple. You're going to get firebombed. I'm going to have them deported. I mean, you can fight back if you want, but when you lose your leg or you get your head blown off, that's kind of on you.
I don't get it, man. Like, how do you...
I don't get you. You're an anarchist.
How do you not see past it?
Because I'm not an ideologue. I am not based on one moral principle of violence or aggression's inherently bad, that the state's bad. You're an ideologue, so you're based solely on that, so you kind of have to.
I'm the fucking ideologue when you're saying, "Oh no, I would deport them before they killed me."
Yes,
Like
because I'm saying
we would
violence isn't
get rid of
inherently
the
wrong.
threat before anything bad happened.
Yes, I'm saying aggression isn't
Like
inherently
September
wrong.
11th or the Orlando shooting or anything like that.
Oh
Like,
no,
yeah,
I'm
those
totally
threats were
fine.
all like known about, but they still happen.
I'm totally
But
fine for
we get
deporting
rid of
Islamic.
every single fucking communist
I'm
before
all for
they ever did
deporting
anything.
Islam as well. No culture. I'm totally fine getting rid of that too.
This is going nowhere.
No, it isn't. I'm just saying I would physically remove them. You're saying you would wait for an attack to happen.
I'm saying morally you have to wait for an attack to happen. You can't.
I'm saying prove it.
You can't.
Without using subjective reasoning, prove it.
You can't just have a group of people
Repeating it
living
is-
in their own commune, not doing anything to you.
That's subjective reasoning.
They haven't attacked you. They haven't done anything. They're living on their own.
That's subjective reasoning, though.
So
So
why
it's
can
conceding
you?
a subjective judgment.
Okay, so then all this subjective talk that you have, if it's subjective, what they have is private property.
Yes, and we're
They
going to
all
kick them out of
live
it
on their own
and
private
throw them
property.
over a big, beautiful wall. See, that's the difference. You are so focused on the concept of nonviolence that you're blinded by anything that could be beneficial.
I am
that
not
contradicts your
against.
notion.
I am not a fucking pacifist. I'm not
Non-aggression.
non-violent. I'm non-aggression. There is a big
I'll
fucking
repeat myself
difference.
again because you clearly are unable to hear me. You are so against non-aggression that you're willing to be blinded and not act rationally, and instead of holding on to your belief system. I'm not like that. I'm saying this is beneficial. Even if you're arguing it's not moral, it's beneficial.
I don't know how you're coming to the conclusion that anarchy is just pacifism, or it's just
Again, I'll
letting
repeat
things
myself
happen.
again for the third time now. Non-aggression.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I have to repeat you before this kind of seeps into your brain. It's about the third time. I think you should get it by now. I had to repeat the situation a few times to you. I don't know if you're just not hearing or if you have short-term memory loss or what, but again, non-aggression. It's not inherently wrong in my belief, which is why I'm fine deporting people who are a net loss to society.
Okay, so then you establish that precedence that aggression is okay.
No, I said non-aggression isn't inherently wrong or inherently good.
Okay, inherently good makes more sense. So what you're saying is that you can use. What you're saying is that you can use aggression in some cases.
Yes.
Okay, so what are those cases? Give me a.
Oh, okay, I can give you an example. How about the bombing on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Because even though you could argue the government committed an act of aggression, wouldn't you argue the citizens didn't? And the innocent people we killed?
Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like that's cool.
Yes.
But
wouldn't you argue the citizens we killed? They never committed an act of aggression, did they? They were just citizens. They were slaves to their state.
This is a completely irrelevant argument. What I'm trying to get you to see.
Well, you said, hang on, before you dance away from topics that don't fit you like you've been doing all night.
Dude, you just bring up these fucking random topics out of nowhere.
No. Again, you said, give me a situation where it's okay. I'm giving you a situation where people who did not commit an act of aggression were very clearly aggressed upon, and yet that was a net benefit, which is why I support it. So yes, I gave you a situation just like you asked for.
Okay, so we're going to talk like utilitarianism.
No, I'm not even arguing that. You asked me for a situation, I gave you a situation. I gave you exactly what you wanted.
You're saying that people were aggressed upon, but in terms of the overall good, it was fine. There was more utility.
I would say so. What did you?
There was more. There was a surplus of utility.
Let's
by bombing innocent people, saving other people's lives, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's take it step by step. Would you agree that citizens we bombed were aggressed upon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you do. Which one was more beneficial, though? Would you have not dropped the bombs? Because Japan did aggress upon the United States, right? They attacked us first. So what would your response be?
Well, Japan did attack us first.
But the citizens didn't, the ones that were killed.
Right? What was that?
The citizens we killed didn't, but dropping those bombs did help us in the long run. So what I'm saying, you asked for an example where aggressing on somebody who was completely innocent was beneficial. I gave you an example.
I'm trying to think of how to go about this.
Yeah, if you have any refutation, feel free.
So that's like, so say you aggress upon me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go to your house.
What did I do?
And you fucking shot through my window or something. Or you shot me. You shot me in the hand, whatever.
Gotcha.
So I go to your house and I kill your mom and your dad. And you can't pay for your UNLV schooling anymore, so you're super butthurt about it. And you're like, all right, we're done fighting. Was me killing your mom and dad acceptable?
Well, you ended up killing more people.
Was it acceptable?
I don't think that's really comparable when you're comparing a war. That's more of a conflict between two individuals. I'm giving you a conflict between the societies, right? Like an anarchist society, two statist societies, whatever.
But answer the question. Is it acceptable? Can I go kill your parents if you attack me?
No, because that wouldn't be beneficial.
How is it not beneficial? You stop fucking attacking me.
Because you killed two people and that didn't prevent the entire war. You're comparing a very small scale issue of two people having a weird disagreement where I randomly shot you and you found me. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre.
No, this isn't
to a large world war.
You came. You saw me in a parking lot or something. You attacked me. You shot at me. You only hit my hand. So I go and I kill your mom and dad.
But is that the same scale as a world war where you would have millions of people die?
Why does this example have to be in the same scale? You just said that you thought it was wrong.
Because that's the entire point. It's not whether it's right or whether it's wrong. It's which one's beneficial, which is a stance I'm taking. That's why it's a little confusing, because my argument isn't is it right or is it wrong?
And so I get a friend of mine, and we go and we kill your mom and dad, and then we're like, if we do that, then we're not going to have to invade his homeland, being his home.
Well, you my only point, parents' homeland.
The point of all of this in the first place was that just because you attacked me, it doesn't give me the excuse to attack unarmed people or people who are not you that are just merely associated with you.
So the issue I have with that situation is I don't think it's particularly comparable to an entire conflict, to where the United States, it's not as if you would have saved a life or two and we could have just as easily saved that life. We're in a situation where it was hurt innocent people or hurt even more innocent people, cost more money, all sorts of nasty stuff, and we could have ended the war much quicker. The situation you gave me wasn't anything remotely close to that. It was, for whatever weird reason, we got in a fight, and for whatever weird reason, you decided to use it to kill my parents.
That's what hypotheticals are.
Okay, but again, it doesn't really match the premise of Hiroshima. So I'm saying it's not really comparable. It's kind of a false comparison. And also, my argument isn't based on morality, so I'm not sure why that was brought up. It was just based on what is beneficial.
You were the one who brought up morality, man.
Well, yeah, but that's not my defense. So why are you asking me if something's moral or not? That's not my position. My position is something beneficial. You gave me a situation which was not beneficial, so I don't know why I would say that's okay.
Fuck, dude. I don't even remember where we were at.
Well,
we were talking about communists and them.
Non-aggression. I'm challenging the premise of non-aggression. And you asked me to give an example where you aggressed upon innocent people and it was beneficial. I gave the example of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then you gave me that example, and I don't think it's really comparable for the reasons I stated earlier. Would you like to get in one last topic before we do our closing
Sure, let's
statements?
move on.
What would your banking system be like?
I mean, that's probably the easiest question. Be some sort of free banking system.
Okay. Well,
Not
want to
that
get in
hard
more
to
detail about it? Because I feel like you would have a lot of currencies in circulation.
just sort of depends. So the way free banking works. Hold on. The way free banking works is you have banks, and these banks are a part of what's called a clearinghouse, and the clearinghouse, in exchange for being able to go through these banks or these banks' books and check their financials and make sure that they're sound, the banks become a member of these clearinghouses, and the clearinghouse is the one that actually prints
So
off.
I'm pretty familiar with free banking. Big fan of Hayek's work. Actually, it's very well thought out. I give him that. But kind of my question is, how do you prevent a competing currency or too much competing currency?
Okay, like you mean how do you keep it from, there being hundreds of different currencies?
Yeah, because like prior to the Federal Reserve, for example, we had tens of thousands of currencies in circulation. I can send you a link to this really great book called American Banking if you'd like.
And
But
most of it.
we had tens of thousands of currencies in circulation, and it caused a lot of issue with consumers because some places will only accept certain currencies. We didn't have kind of a uniformed means of paying off your debt, so it wasn't very
This
good. And I would
also
argue,
this also wasn't free banking though.
I know it wasn't free banking. I'm just curious how you would prevent competing currency because that's a similar, even though it's not free banking.
The clearinghouses compete against each other. And how it works is when you've got competing currencies, you get to this market level where it's like the most stable. And the currency is then based upon what the consumer wants. So if a consumer wants a deflating currency or an inflationary currency, then depending on the clearinghouse, that's what they get.
And do you think there could be an issue with having kind of multiple different currencies, or is there a way you could show there would only be one? Because I don't think there would be.
Well, it'd be the same.
One.
It'd be the same thing as you having to trade money between the euro and the dollar. Like, you know how many trillions of dollars are spent.
Sure, but that is uniformed.
Why do you think there wouldn't be a market for competing currencies?
No, I'm saying there is.
Yeah, why do you think there wouldn't? You think there wouldn't be some sort of organization that would sprout out that would be able to...
Well, how would you stop somebody from... How would you stop it from happening?
Why would you want to stop the market for foreign exchange?
Well, if you have too many currencies in circulation, that can be very bad for the economy. It's happened before. It's happened to other societies. So,
I mean, even just like in Europe, you've got the euro, but you've also got the Swiss franc. You've got the pound.
Yeah, but those are uniformed, and they're within a geographical region,
and
they can fight off competing currencies. How do you stop anyone from coming up with their own currency or a system of currencies or algorithms like with Bitcoin?
Are you gonna buy just any currency?
You can trade with any currency, can't you? And we did that before.
I mean, can you? You have to have somebody that buys it in order for it to be worth anything. So
especially if you have a large globalized economy, then you're likely going to have several different forms of currency coming in. And if it's large, you'll likely have other people trading different sorts. Like when we didn't really prevent uniformed currency in the United States, we had tens of thousands of currencies in circulation. We had to stop it.
Why do we have to stop it?
Yes, because it was bad for our economy.
When was this? When did we have tens of thousands of...
I can send you a link to the book if you'd like. It's called American Banking. I don't know if I have the exact date, and I don't want to pull out the wrong date, but it would have been prior, maybe early 1900s or prior to it.
You can send it to me later. But the point was, like, are you gonna put your money into a currency that you don't trust?
Well, people did it before. So regardless of whether I did, society has before empirically. It's not really a one-on-one thing.
But you're not going to, right?
I prefer fiat money, TBH. But
well, there could be fiat money with clearinghouses.
Well, that's great.
Likely, it would be backed up by something because people generally want something tangible.
Well, something like gold would be horrible, though.
Why?
Incredibly. Well, number one, it's pretty fluid. It's not very stable. Between the 1890s and 1920s, it would fluctuate between $700 and $200. From 1934 to 1970, when the U.S. had a partial golden standard, the inflated adjustable price of gold went from $563 to $201, and now it doesn't really, our currency doesn't adjust or influence that much. So with something like currency, if there was a 10% increase or decrease in the value of gold, that would result in a 10% rise and fall of the overall price of levels of good across the country, and that would destabilize the economy. I can send you sources for those if you'd like, by the way.
No, it's fine. What was
also, that? Go ahead.
What were we talking about? The money, the clearinghouses. The clearinghouses are competing. You end up getting what would be a few. It'd be like credit card companies, basically now. How there's like 3 big credit card companies and they're always competing with each other.
Yep.
It'd be the same thing with clearinghouses.
What about with currency, though? Because we had a lot of currencies in circulation and credit cards. It's also
the clearinghouses handle their own currencies. That's what.
But how do you stop having too many currencies, though? The clearinghouses don't stop other people from using or trading or bartering with
any
amount of currencies.
Are you gonna have a shit ton of clearinghouses?
I mean, it depends. I don't know what your society looks like. It's hypothetical.
You have to have at least several banks to have a clearinghouse. So.
Okay, that's great, but you still have competing currencies because there would be nothing to stop it. It's not.
There would be regional currencies based on.
You could have regional currencies, but you could have many currencies within those regions.
And why is that bad?
Unless you have a mechanism to stop it. And also, what would stop somebody from trading regional currencies from one part of Ancapistan to the other part of Ancapistan? There would be nothing. So all those regional currencies would eventually intertwine and currency would be circulating all through the society.
That's like, you understand what happens to U.S. debt too, right?
I don't see how that's related to how. My point is, like, how do you stop?
That's because people. Okay, Chinese people come in and we buy. I gotta think about this for a second. Chinese people come in, they buy American goods. In order to buy American goods, you have to use U.S. dollars.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So
how do you do that without some sort of monopolization of force, saying people can't trade with all these different currencies?
I'm sorry. I got that mixed up. So, like, a lot of what's going on with the U.S. debt is that the U.S. debt, these securities and these American dollars, because China is pegging its currency, all of these American dollars are sitting in China. China can't do anything with these dollars. They have to buy American goods with these U.S. dollars. It would be the same thing with regional currencies. Yeah.
So my big issue is how do you prevent other people within your region from trading with different currencies or having these regional currencies intertwining with other regions? You would have no mechanism to stop it.
Why do you have to?
Because you don't want.
Why does this need to become centrally planned deal?
Because we've had tons of currencies in circulation and it was horrible. We had certain places would only accept certain types, so you had to carry a whole bunch of different currencies with you, and they would only accept certain types, and you had It was a mess. And I'd much rather have a uniform form of currency, one that isn't gold backed. So I was curious if you had any mechanism to stop that, or if there would be nothing stopping kind of the same issues we've had before.
There's no reason to. I don't think so.
Cool. So do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, please.
All right, go ahead with your closing statements.
Statism is gay.
Cool.
I'm tired as fuck.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So we had another debate here. We hit on foreign policy a little bit. Very interesting. It was definitely interesting. I'm not quite sure. I kind of get how the United States didn't win the Afghan war, but I don't know how that makes Afghanistan in a positive light necessarily. So we talked about foreign policy. We talked about the mechanism of preserving culture. Again, there were no mechanisms presented on how you plan to preserve culture in an anarcho-capitalist society. So after he didn't address that, he decided to talk about morality and whether non-aggression applies. So we talked about the bombing of Hiroshima and whatnot. Definitely fun. And lastly, we talked about banking and how he plans on preventing tens of thousands of currencies from coming in circulation, and he had no answer. So a lot of fun, guys. Really enjoyable. I have to go. I have school tomorrow, and I'm really tired, but a lot of fun.
All right.
All right, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right.